Hi, and welcome back to Craft Along with Jay. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Yetta, and I am so happy you could join me today. Can you believe it? Today is time for the What Would You Make collaboration, which is hosted by Brenda at Rustic and Lace DIY and Christine with Divine Designs. And the guest host this month is Kathy Joe at Kathy Joe DIYs. Links to their channels will be down in my description box, along with the playlist for everybody who's participating. Make sure you check out everybody and show everybody some love. All right, let's dive right into it. Project number one, we're going to start out with six of these little wood bunnies from Hobby Lobby. They're $1.99, but I got them at 40% off. And they're a little bit rough around the edges. So the first thing I do, I go ahead and sand them down, all six of them, just to get some of that roughness off. And once you sand it, you can run over with your hand or your fingers to make sure it's like nice and smooth. So I do that to all six. Showing you a lot of sanding, aren't I? Once I've gotten that done, I'm going to go in and paint them all with Waverly's chalk paint in celery. I'm doing the front, the back, the sides, top and bottom, everywhere. And then I'm going to go through some of these rub-on transfers and pick out some for each bunny. And I'm kind of sticking to the pinkish color, um, close enough with the same flowers if I can find it, but definitely the colors. So I'm just kind of sorting through, laying them down. So give me an idea how many I need and how I want them to look. So just kind of playing around with it till I kind of feel like I'm happy with it. Some of them I have to cut down. I do some smaller ones to put up towards the top, either the ear or the, I guess the forehead part of the bunny. So I'm just kind of playing around what I can find what would look nice. And then once I've gotten to that point, which is not quite yet, I guess, I need one more, a little bit ahead of myself. Then I'm still kind of playing around with the placement here. And I think that's it. Or maybe I'm looking for. Okay, I changed my mind. I did this last week, so I kind of sort of forgot some of the things that I did, but I did switch it out just to get the flowers to look more in sync. Then before I put the transfers on, I'm going to go in with this stamp from Hobby Lobby just to give it a little extra, embellishment to them. I think it looks nice with the rub-on transfers. And it's just a stamp with some cursive writing on it. I don't even think it's real words, but it looks nice. So I'm just going to add a little bit of text here and there. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not looking for um, a lot of ink. Just enough to kind of see it and just to give it that little extra nice look to it, as you can see right here. And then I'll go in with my rub-on transfers and start adding them. So I peel back the back layer and then lay it down and just rub with my fingers and then very gently pull the tape back. And if something starts to pull up with it, you just push it right back down and rub some more. And if there's a little bit of overhang, I just went in with my emery board and filed that down. And that's kind of the process I do with all six of them. And you see it's kind of different flowers, but kind of similar, especially in color. And I think they look really nice with this celery color paint. And you see, I think it looks nice too with the stamp on the background. It kind of gives it a little extra nice look to it. And I try to get a little bit up towards the ear part as well. So it's not just all on towards the bottom of my bunnies. And these rub-on transfers are so easy to lay down and pull back. It's not pulling up the paint, they're very sticky, but they're not pulling up anything. So I like these. They're very nice. Then once I've done that, as you can see, I got this wood round that I got from Hobby Lobby last year when they had the spring sale. And I painted that with Waverly's chalk paint and celery as well. And here I'm going in with Tim Holtz ink. It's vintage photo, I believe. And I'm just going to go around and give it like a little bit of a rustic look around the edges. Excuse me. And I'm going to do that to all six of my bunnies. And I'm definitely not showing you all six. I remember that part. So, and then once I've done all six of those, then I'm going to do the same thing to the tray as well, the wood round. And I'm going to do the outer edge right here, and I'm also going to do the inner edge all the way around. I think it gives it a nice aged look, worn look, rustic look. And I love how this turns out at the end. So stay tuned. You can kind of see coming around here. It gives it a nice little worn look around the edges. I love this look. So here I'm working on the inner circle. And then I'm going to line up my bunnies to go around my tray. I'm kind of had to stand up and look down to kind of see if I had enough space in between them. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but close enough. And I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue them into place. And I have them lined up the way I liked it, so that way I can just flip them down a little bit, add the glue, and then push them back in, so I don't have to go through that whole looking at measurements or anything like that. This step right here, I should probably have done that before I glued the bunnies on, but I didn't. But it probably would have been easier. But here I'm going to look for something to put on the inside of my tray. Then I'm going to start cutting, so that way it'll fit the way I would like it to fit. Then once I've done that, I'm going to start taking the backing off, and then I'll lay it down and do the same way I did with the bunnies. Um, just rub it in so it'll stick. You can do it with your hand. It works really well. I do need to use my little Cricut tool to lift up the paper because it is quite sticky. But again, this one doesn't pull up the paint either, so I like this one, even though it's quite sticky. And if something kind of pulls up with it, you just lay it right back down and rub it in, and then pull the, top layer back. Then I decided just to kind of connect it to the bunnies. I wanted to go in with this stamp again, just to put a little text here and there just randomly. So just keep in mind, once you seal it in with Mod Podge, like I'm doing here, I'm making sure I'm not touching the stamps because I'll probably just smear out the ink. So I'm just going around just enough to go around the edges and seal in the rub-on transfer. I got a little bit too much, so here I'm just wiping some of it back. Then while that's drying, I'm going in with some nautical rope. I took that little piece of tape off at the end and add a little hot glue into the middle and then twisting it so that way the rope would hold its shape. And then I'm going to start gluing that to the back side of the bunny. So it has like a rope going all the way around connected to all the bunnies. And it just looks so good. I love how this one turned out. And I have this one sitting down on my dining room table and I just love it. So make sure you stick around to the very end when we take a final look at everything I made. You'll see it in action, live video, not just a still photo. It is worth it. So yeah, I'm eyeballing it. I'm not looking for perfection. I want this to look kind of rustic, kind of on the vintage side, like old. I try to do it like across the back face, the back of his head, if that's what you'll call it. But I'm not measuring or anything like that. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And then I do the same thing when I get to the other end. Just put some hot glue in there, twist it, and then it will hold its shape and then glue it to the back of the bunny's head. So here's what it looks like still photo. I'll have a little bit of video clip at the end, so make sure you stay tuned. But I love how this turned out. So let's move on to project number 2. I'm going to use this, I think this is French lilac. And then we have Kelly green and then some white paint. And I have these clay pieces laying here, tulip, and some of the leaves for the tulip. I casted these quite a while back, but I wanted to use them because I thought that would be perfect for this project. So here I'm going in with the French lilac. It's a pretty color, but I do end up changing it. But it's not till the very end. But you'll see. But it is a pretty color. I do like it. But you can do your tulip in any color that you like. I do opt for a lighter color. But yeah, any color would look great. Whatever makes your heart happy or goes for your decor. So I'm going to give it one coat to cover the whole thing here. So here I thought I was just going to do the two edge pieces of the tulip, and then the inside I was going to do a lighter purple. But once I made that lighter purple, I liked that a whole lot better. So that's why I changed to do the whole thing with that lighter color. But then I'm going to do some highlighting or low lighting. Like I darken up the edges just so you can see some dimension to it, if that makes sense. But yeah, watch, you'll see what I mean. So here I'm going to start mixing. I'm just going to add some of this. I'm almost out of that white, so I just took what I could from the bottom and add some. I think it's lavender, and then it makes you see it's so much lighter. And I ended up liking that better for my tulips. So you'll see here. Yep, changed my mind. I want to make the whole thing light. So I'm just going over it. I'm still just doing one coat. And then I'm going to go in with some of the white and the Kelly green. And I'm going to make a lighter green. However, I don't mix it fully. I do mix it to the point so when you paint it on, you can kind of see the different color greens, the darker, the lighter in between, just to give my leaves some dimension, along with the stem on the tulip. So yeah, I'll just go in and paint that all down. I just love how this turned out. I love the dimension that shows up in here. And here I'm going in with, I think this is bark brown. So I'm going to go in with the green mixture for the stem, and then I'm adding just a smidgen of, while the paint is still wet, adding a smidgen of the brown to give it more like a stem look. And I do also do that for the raised parts on my leaves right here, just to give it some dimension, some, 3D effect, if you can call it that. Um, but I love how that looks. So here I'm going in with a little bit darker purple and go around the edges of my tulip right here to do the same, give it the same effect as the leaves. And then I gave it a little bit more on the flower part itself, just very little, just to give it the oomph look. So here I got this frame from the Dollar Tree, and I already painted it with Waverly's Antique Wax, brushed it on and wiped it off. And here I'm going in with some gold leaf rub and buff, just a little bit on my finger. A little goes a long way. And then just run it over the raised parts of these beaded frame right here. I'm going to give you a close up. You can see it a little bit. It gives a little bit of more of an rustic, antiquish look, and I love how this looks. It's just a very small hint of this gold leaf. I didn't want it to be all gold, and just just enough. So you play around it with however you like it if you want to do this. But this is kind of what I went with, and I love the outcome of it. Then once I've done that, I got this paper from Hobby Lobby, scrapbooking paper, and I'm gonna mesh out using this insert from the frame, and then cut that out. And here I wasn't thinking because I am going to glue this to the back part of the frame, not realizing that putting it back into the frame without the glass, it's going to be much thinner and it's going to look very flimsy. And I didn't want that. Here's when I'm realizing it that it's not thick enough. So I'm trying to put the glass part in and then put my tulip down and then the backing, but it was too thick. So here I'm going to trace out another piece. I'm so sorry. And go ahead and add that to the glass part. So I'm just going to use some of my glue stick right here and then add the paper because I couldn't pull the paper off of the backing on the other part. It was already like glued down tight. And then I can add it up here and you can't see the glass. And then I can add my tulip to the front on the paper right here. And here I'm just measuring how I want it to look. And then I'm going to go in with my X-Acto knife and cut the stem to size so that way it's not going up under the leaves and make it all bulky on the bottom. I kind of wanted it to connect more so it looks like one cohesive piece. So I cut that, and then I'm just going to hot glue that into my paper on my frame. And then I'm going to make a little shoelace bow. Well, here I'm playing around with it to kind of figure out what kind of bow I want it to make, but I end up making a shoelace bow with this purple gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And yeah, I got to work on it to get the right size. Then fluff up my loops, and then hot glue them to my frame. And then here I'm working on the tails, just kind of getting them even and um, the size that I want. And I just cut them at an angle. And that's what it looks like. I love this one. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Let me know what you think about it. I would love to hear from you. All right, last project from today, project number 3. I got 2 of these Easter egg, I guess they're yardsticks from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to pop off these foam flowers right here. Now, this paper, I struggled quite a bit to get this paper off. I swear that this paper is waterproof. I use so much water on there just to loosen it a little bit. And once I could get up under it, I could pull some and add more water that would soak up under it, if that makes sense. I'm not showing you my struggles, but I'm just letting you know that this paper was definitely waterproof. I swear. I struggled so much with this. But I was determined and eventually I did get it off. And here I'm going to take this back part off as well. And it came off. It wasn't too bad once I got my little paint scraper up under it and I could kind of start lifting it. So I'm just trying to heat up the glue underneath so I could get the last piece off. The other one popped off in one piece and it was so much easier to do. So here I finally got the paper off of my eggs and I'm going to give them 2 coats of Waverly's chalk paint in ivory because I want to give a little bit of a vintage look. And here I'm going in with, I think this is a dark walnut stain, and I'm going to go around the edge of my eggs on both of them. So what I do to one egg, I'll do the same thing to the other. So, because I'm only going to show you one, not even the whole thing of one, because, it's very repetitive. But I'm just going to and tick it up. And then here I'm going in with my Jenga blocks. And here I'm just going to play around with the placement first before I commit to gluing anything down. And even though I play with it and I'm looking at it, it still came out a little bit crooked. Nothing that bothers me, but just letting you know. So here I'm just going to have a little bit of space in between them because I couldn't make a frame around it without any space in between because it wouldn't fit. So I had just a little bit of space, but it works out great because it gives it a nice little design. I just got to get a little bit of glue at the bottom and adhere it to the side of the egg. And then once I do both of them, I am going to let them sit overnight, so make sure they're fully glued on and tight before I start working with them again. But here, I'll just do one layer around. And then as I did this, the egg started warping a little bit. So I do put something heavy in the middle just to keep it down flat so the glue could dry the way I want it to dry onto the egg from the Jenga blocks, if that makes sense. So it's not warped and it's uneven, and then the Jenga blocks are looking kind of funky. So here I'm going to do another layer of Jenga blocks around, and you can see I'm kind of going over the gap all the way around. And I do end up in the top of the bottom because there's a gap and I didn't like it. So just at the top of the bottom, I'm just adding just one more Jenga block, and it gives it a nice little extra design to it too. I ended up liking it, so it worked out fine. But you just need just a little bit of hot glue. You don't want it seeping out too much. If it does, just, wipe it off. So that way you don't have any wood glue sticking to it because we are going to stain them. So this is the next day, and I'm going to go ahead and stain them with some antique wax, and I'm spritzing it down with water just because I didn't want it on so thick. I want it to go on thinner, like a nice thin stain. And then I'll brush it on and then wipe it off, the excess off with a paper towel. And I think this stain kind of blended in very nicely with the stain that I did around the egg in the beginning. So here I'm just painting it on and then wiping it off with a paper towel. You want to make sure you get in onto the little the edge and up underneath, all the nooks and crannies right here, just to give it a nice look. I even did on the bottom, even though you're not going to be able to see the bottom, but that was just me. And here I'm going in between with my paper towel just to make sure I wipe the excess off. And this took me a while, but it was well worth it at the end. And I do this to both of them. And here you can see they look very nice. Then I have these little Easter rub-on transfers that I'm going to add in to both of them, different ones. But here I'm just playing with the placement before I commit. And then I'm going to pull the backing off and then lay it down and rub it in. And then take that top layer off after that. So there we go. And there was a little tiny piece that didn't come off the backing paper, so I just pulled that off and added it in there. You can piece it together like a puzzle and you can't even tell. So that's the good thing about these. So so my little Jenga blocks is sort of like the frame to my eggs where I add my little Easter rub-on transfers. And I love how this turned out. Isn't it gorgeous? And then I got some other Easter rub-on transfers for the other one. So I like this as a set of two. I thought that would look really nice together hanging next to each other. So here's the same process. Pull the backing off, lay it down, rub it down, and then pull the top layer off, and there you got it. So I had like some little Easter baskets and then an Easter egg on top. So that way we're not overcrowding it, but it's got some going on for the whole egg, so there's nothing like big piece of just white, if that makes sense. I added a little something, so it looks like a nice cohesive picture. So there we go for that. So that's what this one looks like. Then you'll give it some um, Mod Podge on top to seal it in. And then here I'm going in with some Spanish moss from Walmart. I had to get it at Walmart because my Dollar Trees have not had this in like a very long time. And because I wanted to go with the rustic antiques vintage look, I wanted to use Spanish moss instead of reindeer moss. So I went to Walmart and got it, and I'm happy I did. I like this. So here I just added some hot glue to the Jenga blocks, then added some Spanish moss, just a little bit at the bottom, not a whole lot. And I'm just using some hot glue to add that in there. And then I got these little tiny eggs from Hobby Lobby, like last year, I believe. And I'm just going to add them. I think I add 5 different colors to each of my frames right here to the bottom, just to give a little bit more of a 3D look. But it goes really well with the pictures in there. And I just love how these turned out as well. Look at that. I love it. And here I'll show you both of them side by side. I think they're adorable. Let me know what you think. So here I just have them standing side by side because I was running out of time, but I do want to hang them up because I think they'll look really great hanging on the wall together. But here they all are. Let's take a final look. I just love how this turned out. This is sitting on my dining room table, and I think it is absolutely gorgeous. This is probably my favorite, I think. But yeah, let me know what you think about these projects today. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget, when you're done with this video, check out everybody down in the playlist. You will get so much inspiration from all these lovely ladies. And make sure you show everybody some love. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, comment, and hype my video. It would mean the world to me. All right, with that being said, until next time.